Hi there, and welcome to today's recap of the captivating new series, Why Raeliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion. Raeliana dies under mysterious circumstances, but instead of ending up in heaven, hell, or even nothingness, she's reborn as a wealthy character in a novel, knowing her tragic fate at the hands of her fiancé. Determined to survive until the curtain falls on this story, she devises a plan involving a devilish duke and a fake engagement. Join us as Raeliana navigates a treacherous world, defying destiny and fighting for her own happily ever after. We open on a picturesque city, lined by terracotta roofs and dotted with trees. We see scenes of the inhabitants' daily lives, such as someone taking a gondola ride, someone riding in a carriage, and someone else posing for a painting. A beautiful mansion surrounded by pristine roses comes into view, in which is a ginger, green-eyed girl looking pensively out of a window. "This isn't my home," she says bitterly before we cut to a flashback. A familiar modern city skyline comes into view. A girl with shoulder-length black hair and light brown eyes checks her phone and looks over the railing of the building she's on. She's failed her entrance exam, which she studied tirelessly for, and we can tell that this is the same girl from before. Despite looking different and being in entirely different settings, her voice is the same, and as she speaks, her silhouette overlaps the ginger girl's silhouette. Someone suddenly steps behind her, and being distracted by a text message, she doesn't think anything of the stranger. Maybe he just wanted some fresh air too. She checks her phone, and to her immense shock, she finds out that she actually passed her exam. She's overjoyed. As she's taking in the relief and happiness of the moment, the stranger quickly shoves her off the building and she falls to her death. This girl, Rinko Hanasaki, was then reincarnated to the fictional world of Raeliana Macmillan. She knows this, but she's still confused and shaken up about it. As she goes through her new morning routine with the maids assisting her, everything feels surreal to Rinko. Well, now Raeliana. She tries to look on the bright side. Raeliana is beautiful, wealthy, and has a loving family. But Rinko knows that Raeliana is just a supporting character in the story. You'd think that being a side character would keep her safe from all the drama the main characters get up to. But Raeliana isn't that type of side character. Raeliana is the type of side character whose death is used as the catalyst for the heroine to take action. In this case, Raeliana's death causes the protagonist to return from her studies. Bitter that she has to die twice, Rinko resolves to survive the story. She knows that Raeliana dies from arsenic poisoning, which her fiancé Francis Brooks mixes into her tea. After Raeliana's death, he creeps up to her grieving family in order to convince her father to hand his oil business to Francis. Raeliana knows she can't break off the engagement herself, which both families agreed to. She just doesn't have the authority to do that, and nobody would believe that Francis has bad intentions, as his reputation is spotless. Then, she decides to make him want to break off the engagement. To do that, Raeliana just asks him to break up with her. Frustratingly, he just plays dumb and pretends to not listen. At dinner, she very intentionally pours wine on him. Then, she asks him to play the piano for her and just walks out of the restaurant as soon as he sits down. When they go hunting, Raeliana plays dumb and lets Francis think she doesn't know how to shoot. Then she takes perfect aim and shoots a tree just a few inches shy of his head. All of these attempts to make Francis want to break off the engagement end in failure. He either pretends to be deaf, stupid, or just laughs them off. When Francis shows up at her doorstep unannounced, Raeliana tries to shoo him away. He tries to put on a hurt act and grabs her hand, claiming that although they were to be wed for political reasons, he thought they had a deeper connection. Raeliana coldly replies that he's mistaken, which prompts Francis to show her his true colors. He says that she'll never be able to get out of this marriage, so she should just give up and get ready to serve him for a lifetime. You have to wonder if Francis is just saying this to blow off steam, because he knows better than anyone that Raeliana's lifetime isn't going to last as long as a typical lifetime does, if they do end up together. We cut to Raeliana, Francis, and her father at a ball. People are socializing, the atmosphere is warm, and the decor is lavish, but Raeliana isn't enjoying the evening in the slightest. As she's brainstorming for ideas to break off her engagement, she caught sight of the Duke and male protagonist of the story, Noah Ballstair Winnight. Let's talk a little about the political aspect of this story, because it's crucial to understanding the character's motivations. The imperial regime faces a significant challenge from the Vu nobles, who aim to pass the Nouveau Prevention Law. This law aims to prevent the acquisition of titles by new nobles, thereby reducing their ability to support the royal family. To counter this threat, Noah assumes a deceptive stance, aligning himself with the Vu nobles while secretly safeguarding the royal seal, which is required for the approval of any law. Our protagonist, Raeliana Macmillan, cleverly exploits the situation to her advantage by entering into a strategic contract with the Duke. She realizes she can use him to avoid her death. When Noah excuses himself, Raeliana inconspicuously follows him. In the ballroom, Francis is approached by a guy who acts very friendly with him. This man, Jake Langston, pulls Francis aside and mentions that Raeliana is starting to look sick of him. There's some sort of secret contract going on here, as Jake threatens Francis that he needs to hold up his end of the bargain or he's gonna die. Stressed out, Francis comes out of this conversation thinking even less of Raeliana. Although he has noticed her sudden change in personality, he doesn't suspect anything supernatural is at play. He then starts looking for her, and someone says they saw her in the rose garden. Meanwhile, Raeliana and Noah really are in the garden, though the Duke has his back turned to her. Raeliana doesn't know how to even start talking to him, as her character isn't friends with the Duke. She keeps overthinking but is suddenly interrupted by Noah, who asks her what's wrong. After they introduce each other, Raeliana gets straight to the point and asks Noah to enter into a contract with her. Let's talk about Raeliana's plan here. Raeliana found herself trapped in an arranged marriage and needed a compelling reason to break free from her fiancé Francis, but she doesn't have the authority to break off the engagement herself. The only acceptable excuse was to enter into a new engagement with someone of higher social status, which is where the Duke comes in. With her leverage being the knowledge that Noah is in possession of the royal seal, Raeliana cleverly used it as a bargaining chip, proposing a fake relationship with Noah. Just as she's about to say this, Francis interrupts them. Raeliana is momentarily stunned, but then she realizes she can use this to her advantage. She grabs Noah's hand and apologizes to Francis, saying that she can no longer hide the fact that she and the Duke have mutual feelings for each other. Meanwhile, she subtly whispers the seal to Noah, which prompts him to immediately play along and put a hand on her shoulder. Raeliana is called away, so she takes that as her cue to leave. Francis, however, isn't done. He grabs her by the arm and starts yelling that she has no right to break off their marriage, but Noah intervenes. Even after Raeliana leaves, Francis is still reeling with anger. He tells Noah that even as the Duke, he's overstepping his boundaries and that he won't let this go so easily. Then, Francis just walks off. If his departing words are anything to go by, we'll definitely be seeing more of him in the future. Noah calls out to a mysterious figure hiding behind a tree named Witten. He orders him to investigate Raeliana and tail Francis. Meanwhile, all the adrenaline rushing through Raeliana's veins from the confrontation has left her. She almost falls off her carriage, though she's relieved she was able to go through with the deal. As she's going home and looking out to the city streets, Raeliana reminds herself to be laser focused on her goal, to not die twice.